This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Show. I am Jamie Pags, the Philly sports guy, and I am filling in for Mac. Jack is on his way. He lost the link here for a second, so I'm sending it again. Give me just 1 second as we get this started. Always a little something here. Just trying to make sure that we get everybody. Okay. There we go. Awesome. So, anyways, like I said, Jack should be here momentarily as I just resent him the link to make sure that he's going to be to come on with us. A lot happening in the world of sports. We can get right started with what happened in baseball yesterday. I'm going to start off with the Phillies. The Phillies were able to win the series and their game against Washington 5-3. Derek Hall with a home run, his fourth of the year. He's been able to really get some power and really take over for. There we go. And really take over for Bryce Harper while he's been out. You haven't really missed Harper's bat in the lineup because Derek has been a great pickup from the AAA. I know that he was killing it down there. He's got 4 home runs. He's got a couple of doubles. This guy just seems to hit the ball really hard, and it looks like they're going to be able to keep doing that and keep winning series, which is going to be important as we move forward here. Right now, they happen to be tied for the wild card. Moving forward, yesterday, the Astros beat the Royals 5-2. The Pirates beat the Reds 4-2 in the first and then lost 5-1 in the bottom half of that doubleheader. The Angels continue to lose 4-1. I tell you, with as much batting prowess as they got on that team, it's amazing that they just cannot seem to put it together. I think that maybe they got rid of Madden a little too quickly. They did not have a really good they didn't do very well in terms of being able to, wait it out a little bit. They were on that 10-game losing streak. And of course, that's when they came to Philadelphia. He shaved the mohawk because he got to see my mohawk, and they never even put it. He's like, all right, you're shaving you're shaving your head to try to win games. It's time maybe to switch you out. So they switched him out, and they have not been doing well since he was there. The Yankees, without Aaron Judge, beat the Red Sox 6-5. There was a couple of home runs here by Devers from Boston, 2-run home run and a 3-run home run. Josh Trevino with an RBI, and Aaron Hicks with the home run for the Yankees. Yankees are 60-23. They are by far the best team in baseball right now, and they're doing it with some good pitching and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see if they can keep up this pace. At this pace right here, they're going to be breaking records left and right on the amount of wins in a professional season. The Mets down the Marlins 10-0. There was, after that 5-run 10th inning against the Reds, the bats figured out where they were and have showed up against the Marlins. It's always good to watch the Marlins get beat a little bit. However, by the Mets, I'm not as happy about. The Cardinals beat the Braves in 11 innings, 3-2. The Cardinals have been struggling a little bit. Obviously, that's the third series that they've lost. Hopefully, we're going to come on the fourth series because they do get to play the Phillies on a 3-game series or 4-game series coming up here. tonight. Just so that you know, we have Wheeler against Wainwright. Should be a very good game. And it's an 8:15 start today. The Tigers beat the White Sox 2-1. And we were talking about this a little bit earlier. I'm not sure that the White Sox are going to be good enough to move forward and get, I hope and pray that their manager gets fired. I am not a big fan of him whatsoever. And really, like I said, I'm hoping and praying that he gets going. I'm not a La Russa fan whatsoever. Still haven't seen Jack, so give me a second. Let me see if I can get this link sent over to him again. I know that he's having a little bit of a tough time. Let's try this again. There we go. Let's see if he shows up here in the next few minutes or so. If not, we'll be able to push forward. We're nothing stops us. The show must go on. Moving forward, Rockies 4-3 over the Diamondbacks. The Padres beat the Giants 2-1. That game in 10 innings. Like I said, it was a good battle there. Nabil Crismont with the win on 3 Ks. Machado gets a home run in that game, and then of course the single scoring the guy from second. I can't wait for that rule to end. They are just not. That's just not baseball. I'm not a big fan of that man starting on second base. The Cubs lose to the Dodgers 5-3, and rounding out the Seattle Mariners, who have been playing some good ball as of late. Get back to 500. They've won 5 in a row, beat the Toronto Blue Jays 8-3. So, it looks like that there are some teams starting to take some shape here. It's going to be interesting to see as they go forward. I want to check out the standings. Obviously, in the wild card race for the National League, we have, so the league leaders are the Dodgers are the top of the NL. Mets are atop of their division, and the Brewers stay atop of the Central. And the wild cards are the Braves with 4-game lead, the Padres 3-game lead, and the Phillies round out the last spot, which are in essence a tie with the Cardinals at the moment. The Giants are looking up at both them, and they're 2.5 games back. The Marlins quietly have come back into 4 games. And interestingly enough, the Arizona Diamondbacks, which you don't really hear much about, obviously, because you don't really think that they're a good team, are only 7 games back of the wild card. So everybody else is after that, like you got the Rockies and such. So I don't really expect that there's going to be much of a push from there. But, everybody from the Diamondbacks, even the Marlins, it could actually show, and they're playing some good ball at the moment. In the American League, obviously the Yankees are on the top. Astros in the Central, are the Twins in the Central, and the Astros in the West. All of those guys are leading their division. And then you have the rest, what seems like the rest of the AL East in the wild card. You have the Tampa Bay Rays, who are 1 game up, and then the Red Sox are a half game, and the Blue Jays all own wild card spots. The Mariners are 3 games back, along with the Guardians from Cleveland, both are 3 games back. White Sox are 4.5 games back. The Orioles, the Baltimore Orioles, the team that that the AL East forgot about, or the whipping boy, are only 5 games back. They're 4 games under 500, but they're only 5 games back in the wild card. That AL East is starting to be one of the tougher divisions in baseball as a whole. So it'll be interesting. The Rangers are 6 games back. The Angels are 7 games back and slowly faltering. I think that they can't make a push here really soon. They're going to be too far out of it to make the run. Tigers are 9 games out, and so on and so forth. So much closer battles in the AL than the NL for the wild card spot. but we still have a half a season of baseball yet to go. I'm not sure exactly what's going on with Jack. I want to see it, just see if he's been able to get any, figure out what's happening. I know that sometimes he's having a little bit of a tough time. Technology doesn't do him so justice all the time. So hopefully he can come back on with us quickly, or else this is just going to be the Mac and Jack show with Jamie Pags. Like I said, the show will go on either way. Anyways, what else is going on in sports? They are having, the PGA is having the Barbasol Championship. It is Svensson. I think this is happening. Is this the one happening? No, that's the Scottish Open. Scottish Open. That's what I really wanted to talk about. Tringale, -9 to start it off. They had a course record yesterday by Tringale, -6 by Harding, and Woodward also with a -6. In the WNBA, the Chicago Sky beat the Indiana Fever 93-84. The New York Liberty beat the Phoenix Mercury, ousted the New York Liberty 84-81, and the Seattle Storm crushed the LA Sparks with Kyrie Irving in attendance, 106-69. And just for all those people, those Canadians that happen to be watching, I know that there's tons that are watching this show all the time. The Calgary Stampeders crushed the Edmonton Elks 49-6 in Canadian Football League football. And here he is. We got him in the show. Hall of Fame writer Jack Hirsch.
I am not too happy with all this technical difficulty we've been having, and I don't want to start passing the blame, but I am not too happy. I might pull a Kevin Durant with you guys. I might ask to be left around. I don't know what I could get in return for me going to another network. I don't know what kind of chips. I mean, maybe you guys will take an expiring contract or something like that. That'll help you get the cap.
Well, I tell you, it would probably be more like the NHL, where you'd have to trade a better pick and you for something much less.
Well, you'd be shedding my salary. I feel like, the technical difficulty. I feel like I'm playing alongside Kyrie Irving with the adventures after a while.
I don't know. I sent 3 emails over. I'm sure everybody else got it.
But I'm here.
I
want to ask what I missed because everyone else heard it. They don't need a recap.
I just went over the baseball scores and the WNBA scores. So it wasn't really much. We were talking a little bit, but there was a lot that happened yesterday. Mostly, I had to deal more with the NHL draft and things like that. I figured I'd wait for you because you always like to bust my stones about the Flyers.
Well, I hope you did mention 2 things. That if the baseball season ended today, the Phillies would be in the playoffs. They would actually be by 1 tiny percentage point. It's meaningless in reality right now. We have a long way to go. But let's say the season automatically had to end. The Phillies would get the 3rd playoff berth, believe it or not. They would have beaten out the Cardinals and they would have beaten out the Giants. I mean, they would have snuck in there.
That is correct.
And that's one. And number 2, I hope you've issued a public apology in Philadelphia. I personally don't care, but you for yourself, to Schwarber, for claiming what a bust. How could we pick him up? This guy, what a bat that this guy is wielding, okay? I mean, and the money they paid him, the $20 million a year for 4 years, that doesn't look bad at all. The other teams, I bet, at this point, that might be willing to step forward at that price. You never know. I mean, but he's worth right now every dollar they're giving him. If any player's worth $20 million, that is.
I agree. I came on to hear say initially when we picked him up that I was not really happy with this, that he's a career 240 hitter, that he had a good season last year, but he had his most home runs last year. He's already just about matched his home run output from last year.
Well, we have a guy, yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Pags, you're putting too much emphasis. You're old school. You're putting too much emphasis on batting average. You should put
I mean, that's how we grew up. I mean, when I looked at the batting averages, I mean, you want to be able to hit the ball. This is a home run league right now, though. So him being able to hit 225, which I think he's right about where he's at right now, and seems to be. I mean, he hit 4 home runs in 2 games, so against his old team, Washington. So I think he had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, and right now they're hitting really well. And I had to eat some crow. I said that I'm very surprised at how he's been able to bat, because he started off, of course, he came in with the ball fire in his first at bat, first pitch, home run, and then he trailed off until like really the end of April, the start of May, and then then the bat started to get a lot live. In comes June, and he hits 12 home runs in June, and July it's still June. So he's been really crushing it lately.
Well, batting average could be a little deceiving because we have a guy in New York for the Yankees who plays first base, who everyone's familiar with, Anthony Rizzo, who's been a star, as a star for the Chicago Cubs for a number of years. He's only hit around 230 all season long on balance, around that area. And that's where he's going to finish up. But at the pace he's going at, he's going to have about 35, 40 homers, about 100 RBIs, and play an excellent defensive first base and supply enormous leadership in the clubhouse. I mean, even Aaron Judge is his best friend who looks up to him. He's been a steadying influence. But if you look at his batting average, you'll think, Rizzo's been slipping and this and that. But the batting average can be deceiving. It's how often you get on base. Joey Gallo, the Yankee left fielder, has been atrocious. A 165 batting average is hard to justify no matter what. So yesterday he goes 0 for 2 officially, which further lowers that anemic batting average. But he walked twice. So the 4 times he was up against the Red Sox, he got on base twice. So if you want to look at it that way, what's the difference whether he got a couple of singles, a couple of walks, if it's not a question of knocking in a run? I mean, the bottom line is, you get on base. I mean, that's what we should be looking at.
Well, and that's where you come in with that OBS. It's like that's the one big difference between where you have, like, when you're looking at the batting averages, but then you see that he's got a high OBS. It makes a big difference across the board. And that's what Schwarber's doing. Schwarber is walking more. He is, and like I said, his bat's been really strong. He does get, like I said, there's games where everybody has a bad game where they don't seem to hit the ball really well. But he has taken over this team since Harper's been out. And the other thing that I mentioned is that Derek Hall, the guy that they brought up from AAA, has really, he's got 4 home runs and, a couple of doubles. You haven't really got to miss Harper's bat because everybody else has picked up the pace a little bit.
Let me tell you, Schwarber's your modern day Greg Luzinski. That's who he is. Your modern day Greg Luzinski. You can look at it that way.
I agree. And the Bull's always there at the ballpark, so I see him all the time. I'll have to tell him that you said something like that. Like, I'll have to ask him what he thinks about Schwarber and if he thinks of him like him, because obviously Luzinski was also not very good in left field.
Well, don't mention that. I mean,
but that's what makes them very similar. Just the way they were able to hit the ball. I mean, the Bull still looks like he could crush a ball 500.
He survived without a DH. They didn't have a DH to bail him out in the National League.
Yeah, and exactly. And that's why he wound up in left field. But it still cost them a few games back then, too. Like, I think that cost them part of the 83 World Series because they left him out there and he wound up making a gaffe on defense. So, the Greg Luzinski, he was war number 19, so I was always a big fan. I'm a fan of anybody who typically wears that number. So I'm on board with that. But yeah, the Yankees, right now the Yankees, obviously we just got past the halfway point of the season, and 60-23, 60 wins so far. I mean, that's really on pace to be able to break records with the most amount of wins of all time.
It's obscene what's going on, to me at least. I thought this was going to be the decline of the Yankees, at least temporarily. I'm the last person who should be asked an opinion about the Yankees' success, okay? Because I didn't see this going in any way, shape, or form. And the ironic part about it is I saw certain performances, certain positions not being that productive, and they haven't been overly productive, yet the Yankees still win. They still win, despite that, what Joey Gallo's doing. He's having a lousy season on balance, even though I mentioned he walked a couple of times. Batting averages could be deceiving. He's been performing poorly this year. Aaron Hicks, good game yesterday, but on balance, he hasn't been quite what you expected. Josh Donaldson, a grand slam yesterday, and Hicks hit a homer 2 after that. He's been a little disappointing. He hasn't been the player he's been in the past. And the catching position, they've overachieved a bit there. And even DJ LeMayo has been okay, hitting in the 260s, nothing special. Gleyber Torres finally is coming on, the last few weeks is late, but you just wouldn't expect this. I mean, the bullpen, Chapman being injured and performing poorly at other times, yet you have a Clay Holmes who steps up. Their starting pitching has been outstanding. I mean, I just couldn't see this coming for the life of me, but there's the second half of the season to go. Remember that. Things are going to change drastically for some teams, and don't be confident the Yankees aren't going to hit a serious bump in the road, okay? I hope it doesn't happen. I know Mac teases me saying, you're not a Yankee fan. You're hoping they collapse. No, I'm not hoping they collapse. I'm hoping people laugh at me at the end, and Mac could maybe burn my Yankee card if he wants, if it means him winning the World Series. But I just can't see this for the life of me, what went on this year. I mean, just talk about a prediction that's looked flat. But I got to remind you, the Atlanta Braves were barely over 500 until towards the end of last season. They only won 88 games, 18 games behind the Dodgers, 19 games behind the Giants, had they been in the same division, yet the Braves won the World Series. I mean, what do you make out of this Yankees season if they continue this torrid pace in the regular season? And they're basically what the Seattle Mariners were 21 years ago, winning 116 games. And then they get bumped in the playoffs immediately at the start. I mean, to me, the season would have been a success, but yet because they would have overachieved, yet it would be a big disappointment. And everyone would be saying, well, all the moves they didn't make that they should have made. Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman are getting a reprieve. They were under fierce criticism. And with the Yankees winning, it seems, virtually every day, people just aren't attacking any of their moves. But notice people aren't stepping forward and saying, what a great managing job by Aaron Boone. Brian Cashman is really brilliant. They're ready to pounce, like people like you who are ready to pounce on Girardi. If the Phillies had started winning with Girardi, you would have put it Pags on pause dial. You wouldn't have been attacking, but you would have been lurking and you would have been waiting for the slip up. And it happened with the Phillies. The Phillies were just the opposite. They couldn't win, for a while.
So, yeah, but they were 22 and 29 when Girardi was let go. They are 22 and 10 since then. So, I mean, literally, can you say that it was Girardi? You can't 100% blame it all on him, but obviously that's a different clubhouse now that he's not there.
Do you really think the Phillies would not have enjoyed this same success had Girardi been there? Did he really? I don't know. I'm not saying. I only know Girardi from when he managed the Yankees and the Marlins before then. And he was a heck of a good manager, highly respected. In fact, he was asked to manage the United States Olympic baseball team. And you're not given that assignment unless you're highly respected. And I know Girardi could be very tense. And sometimes if a manager is very tense, it could wear off on the players. But I don't know. Was that the case with the Phillies? I mean, they're pros. Maybe they didn't like Girardi, but they know they have to go out there and play. Players don't always like their managers, yet they perform because it's their job. And do you really think the Phillies would not have gone on the run they've gone on had Girardi still been there.
No, I don't think they would have. I think that they would have been floundering around under 500 throughout this entire time. And I felt like there was a point where I was watching one post-game interview, and he just looked so dejected, that he didn't know what to say or what to do anymore. And I think that kind of resonated throughout the clubhouse. And I tell you, like I said, the first interview he did, the moment he got fired, you could tell it was like everybody gave a sigh of relief. Everybody needed to get out of the situation, including him. And I think that's really what it was. I think that you take on the personality of your manager, that teams take on the personality of their manager, and that they needed a big change. And it looks like Thompson, in his first opportunity, is doing a really great job. So can't really argue with what's been going on the field, because 22-10 is a lot better than 22-29.
Well, Girardi did have his opportunities. This was his third year. And actually, the Phillies had a winning record last year. They contended towards the end. Not a bad year, but
actually, it was the end that kind of blew it. They were in the lead, and then they got overtaken by the Braves. So
okay, right, okay. Forgot that. Which makes my argument about the second half of the season even more meaningful. They were overtaken by the Braves all the way at the end. The Braves that won the World Series, which is a scary proposition for the Yankees, because there are good teams in the American League. Like Toronto is playing very poorly, but if the season ended today, Toronto would have nabbed the final playoff spot. So they'd be in the playoffs, and the talent's there for them to put it together and maybe beat the Yankees in the playoffs. Or maybe another team all of a sudden, gets hot at that point. So, it's a scary proposition, the playoffs. And last year, I could tell us the best. We hailed the Braves as being World Series champs. But the Giants under Gabe Kapler, the old Philly manager, finished 19 games ahead of the Braves. They were actually the best team in baseball, not the Braves. Yet the Braves are World Series winners. Pags, if you want to know anything about basketball, Byron's the guy. He knows his stuff.
Yeah, you know what? I figured I'd bring him in because another team that I thought was going to be really good this year, the Texas Rangers. They seem to be really, really streaky, and they had a great streak against the NL East where they were beating the Mets, they were beating the Phillies, and now they can't seem to win a game.
Byron's a Ranger fan from Texas. They're not playing bad this year, close to 500. Not bad for the Rangers considering what they've been, the last few years.
Yeah, they lost a couple of games by one run, and I'm supposed to take my grandsons over there this weekend. So this will be our second time going to the Rangers game. So, but yeah, they get a lot of people, a lot of fans, and a lot of people are excited about what's happening, and we just excited about going to see some baseball.
Now, Mac asked Jim Jeffcoat and myself. He shouldn't have put me in Jeffcoat's category because, Jeffcoat was a real athlete per se, how far I went. But if you guys could have played any sport professionally, and he eliminated football for Jeffcoat.
Okay.
No, football was on the table still. I'm sorry. Any sport, you could have had a successful career. What sport would you have wanted to play? Which did you love the most? And Jeffcoat strangely liked baseball more than he liked football. He would have rather been a Major League Baseball player. If you had a choice, any sport at all, you could have played, okay? Football or any other. Would you have still picked football, or would you have chosen another sport?
I probably would have picked basketball. I got the basketball award in my high school, my senior year. I didn't get the football award, so I was the best basketball player on my team, but I just knew that I wasn't going to quite get to where I need to be competitive. I just felt that in my heart.
Kind of like Tony Gonzalez in a way, he was better off playing football. He was a good college player.
But what I hate, I didn't listen to some of the coaches. They tried their best to get me to play some baseball, and they wanted me to steal bases because I was pretty quick and fast. And I missed that opportunity, and I wish I could have went went and learned more about baseball, and that's why I'm teaching my grandsons everything. I mean, we went hit golf balls all last week, and they love baseball as well. I think I love watching them play baseball. They got a perfect baseball swing right now, so I'm happy that they are learning the technical stuff early.
How old are the kids?
They're 8 and 6. 8 and 6. Yeah,
This is the when you start to train them, and give them the good habits, because they'll start creating their bad habits as they get older. But if they have a good foundation, they're going to be able to do a lot of different things. So that's
eventually
awesome.
they'll pick one sport. Eventually they get older, they'll decide which is their sport. They'll have to make a decision at some point, or want to make a decision.
Yeah, I can put out the ladders, and they know the drills. I ain't got to tell them no more. They got the techniques down, and they working on their quick feet stuff. I'm teaching them to run on the balls of their feet. A lot of kids don't understand that. So when you teach them to run the ball of their feet, and it makes the fast muscle twitch coordinate with your body, right? So, and then and I got them moving their arms and things like that. So it's really good for agility stuff. And then I got them thinking on why they running. A lot of times kids don't think when they run, so you got to think the right things.
Understood. So, Byron, I was interested to talk to you because obviously, there was a big, the news came out yesterday. Baker Mayfield is now a Panther. So I actually have, I'm a fan of Matt Rule. And I hope that he does really well down in Carolina. So I'm a little bit more excited about this. First off, are you surprised at the fact that it was just a 5th round pick that made this happen?
I was surprised that it was a 5th round pick. It's a conditional pick. They can get down to the 4th pick just based off of the performance and what he can do. I think too that they probably had more money on the table than anybody else, but also, I think they've been talking back and forth the last couple of months since the draft, So I'm thinking that there was something that they were going back and forth with the agent, his Baker's agent and everything, and they made it happen. I'm so glad for Baker, because now he know that he can get in there and get settled down. He ain't got to wonder about the next month or so and all this emotional news going all around him and his family. So I think it's good, and I think, the Cleveland Browns kind of handled it pretty good on saying that he can always be a big part of their memories and things are such like that. So I'm kind of happy, but, football players got to understand this game is within a 5, 10, 15-year window that those things like this going to happen. And the more you can put your ego to the side and go on with your life, the better it will be. So I'm happy for that. I think Baker should be ready to go and get ready to prepare himself with the offensive coordinator, which is McAdoo, Ben McAdoo.
Well, Cleveland's not happy. The breakdown of the $18 million was like this: Cleveland is losing $10.5 million, and they're not happy about it. Carolina's paying him his guarantee $4.5 million, and right. Baker is eating $3.5 million, but he could make it back in incentives. I want to ask you both, you guys, a quarterback question, and Baker Mayfield is part of this. I can't give the answer because it's going to be on our debate show. If you guys had a choice, you were a coach, you didn't have a quarterback, you had to take all 3 quarterbacks from one team or the other, and you have to steal a quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett, who they drafted number 1, Mitch Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph. The Steelers 3 quarterbacks or the Panther 3 quarterbacks, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, and the quarterback they drafted, Matt Corral. Okay? Which threesome would you guys take? I can't give an answer. It'll be on the debate show. Since Baker Mayfield's part of it, I mean. Man,
that's a tough question for me.
Yeah.
I never thought of that. I just like Baker Mayfield because he gonna do what it takes to win, and he got a big heart. I would probably just still try to build my team around Baker Mayfield because of what he did in Cleveland. What he did in Cleveland was hard. I mean, ain't nobody else could have done that for a franchise like what he's done the first three to 4 years with Cleveland. I just think if he wouldn't have got hurt, and if he could have maybe worked with some receivers that want to, understand that, we need to work together. I think some of the biggest thing that's happening with these pro athletes now is the timing that they do in the offseason. I think that's critical, and I think that's important. So I think if you get to the case scenario that you can work with the receivers and you guys get the chemistry down, I think that's important.
Pax, what about you? Which three would you take?
So I am leaning more towards Pittsburgh with Mitch Trubisky. I think that Mitch has got the bigger chip on his shoulder. And I think that that's going to show through a little bit. I'll be honest, I don't expect
bigger chip on his
much.
shoulder than Baker Mayfield?
Yeah, I think he does actually. So he wound up in Chicago, and they didn't really give him much around him. And then okay, the moment they start giving him some weapons, all of a sudden he gets bumped for another guy. So I think Mitch has got the bigger chip on his shoulder. I think Baker is going to take a year to get himself accustomed. I think it's going to be a whole different situation down in Carolina, and it's going to take a year for him to resituate. With my biggest question is the Sam Darnold experiment over? Is this a competition for quarterback position in Carolina, or is it automatically Baker's and Sam Darnold's now the number two?
Good. That's a great question. I think it's a competition, but I'm hoping the Carolina staff hopes Baker Mayfield comes in there and legitimately wins the job, because Darnold has had his 1 year there already. And they kind of want like a new infusion of energy in there that Baker Mayfield could give them. There's a fourth quarterback in Carolina, which no one talks about, P.J. Walker. He's not going to win the starting job, but the coach of the Panthers, Coach Rule, that was his college quarterback. And how do you cut your college quarterback? You love the guy. You brought him to you in the pros. I have a feeling P.J. winds up on the taxi squad because his coach, he'll be so fond of him. He'll keep them on reserve. That's once in a while you do get relationships, as Byron could tell you, where the coach loves the players so much he doesn't really have the heart to cut them, even though logic says that he should.
Yeah, he'll be a good study film room guy, somebody that can make sure all the X's and O's are dotted and everything else. And I think to have 3 to 4 good quarterbacks in the fold and know the offense in and out, it's very important for sure.
Now, let me ask Pags a question. Let's say for virtually nothing, Jimmy G falls into the Philadelphia Eagles' lap. A healthy Jimmy G, okay? Who starts, him or Jalen Hurts?
Hurts.
Still Hurts is your guy no matter what. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not. I'd rather take the intangibles that Hurts offers than the prowess that Garoppolo does. He's obviously had some playoff success, but I feel like that his playoff success is built more off of the defense than what he's done specifically. I feel like Hurts actually has a lot more upside than Jimmy G. I think you've seen exactly what Jimmy G can give you, and that's why he's now probably not even going to be the starter in the 49ers, even after going to the NFC Championship game. So I'm not as excited about Jimmy G. I wouldn't be surprised if Jimmy G winds up back with the Patriots as the last hurrah of Bill Belichick at some point.
If I was a coach, I would get some film. I was watching Dan Marino and Jim Kelly and those guys last night. I think these guys need to watch some of those old guys that played, especially in the 1983 draft, which I was in that class in the 83 draft. But I think it's a lot to learn about from Elway and Peyton Manning and those guys. I think, if you're a quarterback, Jalen Hurts and those guys, I think they need to just sit down and watch some old films, get with a couple of receivers in the offseason, and then just start, making your game a little bit better, enhancing your game, because it's about the process. And I think a lot of guys now, this social media done took this game to a whole another level. But it's a process, and I think if you get the process down, you can come in and duplicate, and then you can put some time in with those receivers in the offseason. That is the key, I think. I think people don't understand. You win championships about what you do in the offseason leading up to the season. It's all about preparation. I think it's not enough of these young guys not preparing themselves because they got too many distractions.
Yeah, when you talk about social media, they like to create, social media creates controversies. And the latest one, and Byron especially can relate to this, having been a receiver, is with Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers. Are one of them going to be affected greatly without having the other one? And there's a certain pressure now on Davante Adams, who's been a great receiver. Are you really that great? Did Aaron Rodgers make you what you were? Of course, they worked as a team. I don't go for that nonsense. But he has Derek Carr thrown to him with the Raiders, and Carr's a decent passer. And he was his Davante Adams quarterback in college, where they had a lot of success. Who's there more pressure on? I mean, is there more on Aaron Rodgers because he doesn't have his main weapon, an all-pro receiver? Or is there more on Davante Adams, reuniting with Derek Carr?
I think it's more on Davante Adams. I think, he's going to a new environment. It's going to be a different offense that he has to learn and adjust to. And he gonna get double more because he ain't got the help that he had. Well, he got Waller and those guys, but I just think Aaron Rodgers and them got a system, and that system been working, and just how they built the camaraderie in Green Bay is different and established, and so I think Aaron Rodgers, he just in a comfort zone. He you see him, he on automatic. He gonna do what he needs to do.
There's a guy like Sammy Watkins on the Packers who was once considered a number one draft choice. They thought he'd have an elite career, and he was good for a while, but then injuries or whatever else, he hasn't been the same. Does he have a rebirth? He's about 28 years old or so. Does he have a rebirth with Aaron Rodgers? Does he become a top-of-the-line receiver again?
I think if he can stay healthy, he will be. He's still under that 30 mark. The key number for a receiver is 30, and I think he still got the potential. If he can stay healthy, I think he can be a big plus for the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I don't think that interestingly enough, there has been a lot of talk that the Vikings are going to be the team that actually wins that division this year over top of the Packers. I don't see the fall off as much as everybody else does. Plus, I don't trust the Vikings, not even a little bit. I think that their quarterback, Cousins, can't win any big game, that he gets what I like to call is the hiney hole pucker, because he squeezes. He gets very, very tight when the game is on the line, and they just can't handle that type of pressure. I think that, consequently, I think Rodgers is able to deal with that type of pressure when he feels like it. I feel like that, if there's games where he doesn't feel like it, then, he could also take that, and that's what you're going to get from him. But,
I was just going to say this, though, Pat. I think this is going to be the best coach that Cousins going to have for his offensive strategy coach, for his preparing him for these games. I think that might be the plus that might be the plus or the advantage that he'll have that he never had before.
Let me tell you guys, don't go to sleep on the Lions, because the Las Vegas bookmakers were listening to the Mac and Jack show when I said the Lions were going to make the playoffs. They're going to be the surprise team. Keep in mind, getting Hutchinson from Michigan, that's going to transform their defense. And you guys are talking about receivers. What about Jameson Williams from Alabama? He's been injured. That's been the problem. But a healthy Williams, he's going to be a thunderbolt. He could totally change their offense. I mean, and it's up to Jared Goff to show that he could at least be the quarterback he was, that didn't mess things up for the Rams when they went to the Super Bowl. Notice I didn't say take them to the Super Bowl, but he was a good game manager that year. If he could be a very good game manager, and that's all what Kirk Cousins is. Kirk Cousins is an excellent game manager, but he's usually not a difference maker, quarterbacks like that. I mean, maybe one day, guys, we should sit down and put these quarterbacks in groups. Big difference makers, barely difference makers, good game managers, average game managers, because it's, it's kind of like, it's different. Different teams need different things.
Right.
I mean, I don't know where you would put Daniel Jones. He doesn't get a category yet. He's not quite a game manager. He's not elite. You got a question mark quarterbacks. So
yeah, I agree with that. And when you did say about Detroit, man, they might be the surprise team of that division because of how they came back and started playing last year, and Dan Campbell, he's gonna be a great coach. So I think it's all, when you look at these case scenarios, you got to look at the coaches, the quarterback, and the defense. That's what you have to start looking at.
You know what I like? What I like in the coach, guys, if a team has a losing record, no hopes of making the playoffs, but week in and week out, they are playing hard and they're competitive. They're in the games. Okay, the losses are piling up, but they don't get discouraged. They don't throw in the towel the way your New York Giants did last year. They just threw the towel in, it seemed. Lions had a lousy record like the Giants. They never threw the towel in. Dan Campbell had them playing hard from start to finish. I like that. Remember, you guys, when you guys were kids, we were all on the same level when we were kids. We played because we loved the games, two-hand touch in the schoolyard, this and that. We always played hard. We always wanted to win no matter what. There were no such things as standings, playoffs. We just, love of the game, wanted to win and play hard. And you don't have that mentality in the NFL for the most part now. If you can't make the playoffs, the heck with it. You kind of, especially an established player, wants to go home. A guy less established is just playing for himself. But the Lions really were cohesive last year. That's why I like the direction they're headed in.
Yeah, it's gonna definitely be some surprises this year, and that's one of the teams that you got to keep your eyes on.
Yeah, I think that there's still there's going to be a couple of pieces away from actually making a tough run, but they are going to be a lot better than they are. And it's not just Dan Campbell. There's a guy who's an assistant head coach up there, Deuce Staley, who's got as much energy as I do that when he brings it to a game. So I feel that energy is contagious. When you are somebody who is always at level 15. When everybody else is operating at level 8, you start to elevate your game. And I feel like that's one of the things, one of the reasons why they brought Deuce Staley in to help out Dan Campbell, because Dan Campbell's high energy as well. And Deuce Staley, I think, actually just helped complement him pretty well.
Yeah, and if Jameson Williams can have a season like Jamar Chase had, it's gonna be something to watch.
I just don't know if Goff is the quarterback there that's going to be able to make the difference. That's going to be the big question there.
Yeah, exactly.
So in other news, Dan Snyder said that he is going to talk to the House committee. Good idea, bad idea?
I think it's going to be a bad idea because once the government get in the midst of football and sports, I don't think it goes together. We talked about this other night, and Matt was saying too that Snyder he's supposed to be a handoff type owner, but he still got a lot going on, and there's a lot of conversation on what they need to do with him. So, and Roger Goodell he needs to be more aggressively involved with trying to make a decision on what they need to do with Snyder, because he needs to shut up or get out the way. And then right now, it's kind of still circulating and it's becoming really messy. It's a distraction.
But Byron, let's say Roger Goodell initiated a vote with Daniel Snyder's fellow owners. They need 75% to vote to oust them. Right. And let's say they succeed. Now, Daniel Snyder turns around and he sues the NFL, and all this dirty laundry starts coming out. So I kind of feel they would rather ride this Daniel Snyder thing out if possible. But if it becomes too political already and and finally they're forced to make a move, they'll do it. But I don't think voluntarily they're going to want to make a move, in any way, shape, or form, because now the other owners, at least some of them, come under the microscope.
Yeah, and Daniel Snyder didn't pay the royalties like he's supposed to, and some other things that was going on too that they have found out, and the profit sharing pool and things like that he was skimming on. I mean, it's a lot of things that have happened with Daniel Snyder. I think they need to go ahead and get rid of him and move on. That's what they need to do.
Yeah, it makes me wonder, when you have that much money and that much control of a team like he is. I mean, that's still it's a $2 billion entity there in Washington. And once he builds a stadium, wherever he builds the stadium, it's going to jump up again to probably over like $3 billion.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's a slippery slope when other owners decide that they want to oust somebody. I mean, it's because ultimately it's like there's no glass houses in that room. Everybody has done something to get to where they've been, to where they are. And some of it's not so nice. And this is one of those things. However, when you're taking money away when you take $1 away from a billionaire, he realizes it. And I kind of feel the same way here. It's like the money is going to be what dictates what happens with him. But I still think that he's going to have, he would just say specifically who he's going to take over the ownership, and he would just step back, but still have a lot of say within that organization. I can't imagine that he's just going to disappear and be okay with that. So guys with those types of egos just don't do that.
Right.
Exactly. I just wonder, let's say, I'm just speculating on this. I'm not saying this is what I think should be done. Let's say the workplace was disrespectful to women, and that's totally unacceptable. Can you force a guy out of his job being an owner? Or what about taking away the #1 draft choice the next 2 years? Daniel Snyder's one of these owners reportedly who wants to win. You take away maybe multiple draft picks on top of a big, gigantic fine, and maybe suspend them, a season, the whole bit. I mean, really hit them hard with sanctions as opposed to making a guy sell a team. Can you really force him to sell a team? Is there a conduct code on the book for the owners? That's what I want to know. But then again, maybe you should be able to make him sell the team, because if you can suspend players, you could suspend owners. But notice, a player is never kicked out of the league completely. That's never discussion. It's always, whether he should be suspended a year. A year is a severe suspension in the NFL. So how come owners, we can get rid of them, but players who commit horrible conduct aren't banned for life? I mean, I just wonder. I'm just talking out loud. I'm not taking a position here. I want to make that clear.
Yeah, you got the oversight committee, Roger Goodell. You got the owners. They meet, every year on issues and things that they need to clean up and what they think is best for the NFL. And then you got the Players Association, got all these guidelines for the players. And so it's one of those things where you have to go through the process, I guess, to see how to set up the rules and guidelines. But the oversight committee, Roger Goodell, and them probably need to get with the owners, and they need to decide. They need to put something that they can decide and move forward. Some of this stuff is still lingering, and I think it's not really good for the NFL and the image and the direction that you want to take the NFL. So, in my opinion, I think Roger Goodell and the other owners need to get involved, and they need to make some firm decisions on how to move forward.
Yeah, and I look at this a lot different than like the owner of the Clippers in the NBA, or Marge Schott from the Cincinnati Reds, where those entities, Major League Baseball and the NBA, pushed them out and kind of forced their hand specifically because of statements that they made. Where this is a little different here. It's not as much a obviously it's coming out more where just the women in the workplace being mistreated is more of as a much bigger deal than, we'll say even 10 years ago, like that. It's women's rights are starting to become a little bit more forefront than anything else. I wonder if it holds the same type of credence that, like the same thing with Marge Schott or the guy from the Clippers, the owner of the Clippers, when he, had his statements that was recorded by his then girlfriend, who was 50 years younger, of course. I just feel like that it's going to be a lot harder for them to do that.
Yeah, but that Mark Cuban, at the time that thing came out with Donald Sterling, even though he made reprehensible statements that were sickening, he was saying it within the privacy of his own home. So what Mark Cuban was saying, even as disgusted as he was with Donald Sterling, he was saying it within his own home. But it's easy for someone else to say that if it doesn't personally affect them or personally affect, their religion or ethnic group. What happens if it hit home to something that was very personal to you and someone said it within the privacy of their own home? We would be angered to no end, beyond repair.
Right.
So, it all depends what position you're looking at something from. But in the case of Daniel Snyder, Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, is probably happy this Daniel Snyder thing is continuing because it kind of shifts him away from the news. And by the time they come back to Stephen Ross, it kind of becomes old news. When something stays in the news a while, sometimes we become tired of it. It loses its sip, its clout. And that person accused, it's good for them because it kind of just fades away. The whole thing, the accusation, we go on to new news. But some news lingers. This Daniel Snyder thing's not going away. Daniel Snyder's obviously not that well liked for this to continue on and on and on. And he even tried damage control. He hired a black GM. He hired a woman in a top position. He's, doing all the right things that would make the NFL happy and society happy. But still on Daniel Snyder's trail, that guy is like, man.
He's like a skunk. He's still
win.
He's still stacking up the joint. He's still stacking up the joint.
I like that.
The only way out.
You might want to use that this week. He's like a skunk. He's still stacking up the joint.
I don't want to put him down that way. But if Washington wins, I said this about Deshaun Watson. If you win, you get off to that start. You get off to a 6-0 start, and you're the talk of the NFL. People aren't as concerned about the other stuff. You agreed with me, Mike, with Deshaun Watson. Even people in Cleveland who are disgusted with him, who are Brown fans, they look and say, darn it, we're 9-2. We could go to the Super Bowl this year. They're saying, well, they're not that anxious to kick him out because then they're not going to go to the Super Bowl. It's
that's a great point. It's just like boxing. You good at when you win, people forget all your dirt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I look at it, and consequently, if the Browns stop 0-6 or 0-8 for as long as Watson is not able to play, whatever the NFL decides to sanction him with, they're going to be itching for him to show up. And I think that's what's more likely, that they won't care about the dirt because they care about their football team and they want to win some games, and they're going to have a better chance of winning their games with him than they would with any other quarterback.
Yeah.
So could you imagine the Browns get off to a bad start? Carolina's 5-1. Baker Mayfield's great. The Brown fans are going, we want Baker. We want Baker.
Yeah. That dog pound will be barking. They would definitely be barking.
Yeah, and I think they bark anyways, whether it's good or bad. So, Byron, well, we do appreciate you coming on and talking some NFL with us. Anything special going on with you other than just taking the grandkids, just dealing with the grandkids?
Yeah, well, I was going to be in Cleveland this weekend to do my football camp, but I decided not to go. I got a sinus infection, but I got a football camp next week. Me and Quincy Carter got a quarterback receiver camp. So I'm doing little camps right now, but just enjoying this Texas heat, man. It's 100 and some degrees out there this week, next week, and I'm just trying to stay in shape.
Byron, teaching the kids all the football skills. They're learning a lot from you on the field. But when they come back from the field, they're too hot and exhausted to hear motivational speech about where they should go in life. Save that.
I'm gonna get. Hey, can I give you a pointer today? Can I give you a pointer about catching the football? Can I give you something? What you think about what's special about a football? In your opinion?
Special about a football?
Yeah. What's special about a football?
The football.
Shape. It looks like an eye.
That's a perfect. Yeah. It got 2 points.
Yeah.
It got 2 points. Once you learn to catch that 1 point, you can always catch that point.
Byron, when I played when I was young, I dropped the ball most of the time.
That's why you dropped it. You didn't catch the point.
I did.
Now you got stuff. Now you can go and teach
I was
that.
scared I was going to get hit. Even in two-hand touch, I was scared I was going to get shoved. So I took my eye off the ball to see how much space I had with the guy guarding me.
I'm going to teach you some things in the next 10 weeks or 12 weeks football season.
There you go. There you go. He's going to get you in game shape, ready to go out there and compete. Byron, I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for coming on. You have a great weekend, and we'll see you again soon.
All right, you guys have a great weekend.
Yeah, Byron.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys, we are going to be back here momentarily after this commercial break with Keith Engel from TGI Sports. I did a morning show with him earlier, so I already know a little bit about what he's about to say because he's going to talk a lot about your Yankees, I can imagine. I'm sure you guys will have a lot to go back and forth with, and I'll bring it to you like I brought up to him where I think Aaron Judge may be going. So we'll be back right after this commercial break.
My baloney has a first name, it's O-S-C-A-R. My baloney has a second name, it's M-A-Y-E-R. Oh, I love to eat it every day. And if you ask me why, I'll say, 'cause Oscar Mayer has a way with B-O-L-O-G-N-A.
Oscar Mayer, the first name in Bologna.
How's that?
You know, one of the best things about being an ex-big leaguer is getting freebies to the game. Call the front office, bingo. And once these fans recognize me, I probably won't even have to pay for my light beer from Miller. Down it, I love them. These fans know I drink light because it's less filling and it tastes great. Good seats, huh?
You're in the wrong seat, buddy. Come on.
Oh, I must be in the front row.
Come on.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Good seats, hey, buddy. He missed the tag. He missed the tag.
When you drive to Wendy's and order a single, you get more beef than the Whopper or the Big Mac. At Wendy's, you never have to ask, where's the beef?
Anyone else?
My name is David, and in 8 years, I'll be an alcoholic.
Hi, David.
I'll start drinking in middle school, just at parties. But my parents won't start talking to me about it till high school. And by then, I'll already be in some trouble.
Kids who drink before age 15 are 5 times more likely to have alcohol problems when they're adults.
The thing is, my parents won't even see it coming.
So start talking.
Who's next?
Before they start drinking.
The Hometown Foundation is excited to bring back the Dream Ride Experience, August 26th to the 28th at Connecticut's Farmington Polo Club. Join us in celebrating the accomplishments of our Dream Riders while enjoying live music, a car and motorcycle show, family fun zone, pet adoptions, canine demonstrations, the Fireman's Chili Cook-Off, and much, much more. Get your tickets today.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready. I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get any?
And we are back, trying out some new music today to come back to, and I don't like it.
Is that opera?
So, no, it says acoustic cinematic, and yeah, I don't like it. We're gonna turn that off.
I don't know what that is.
I don't like that return
I like
music.
the 60s and
That's more like
70s.
harpsichords.
Yeah.
So, and we are here with Keith Engel, bringing him on for TGI Sports.
Good morning, guys. That music made me feel like I was at my my massage therapist. I was so relaxed there.
Keith, with what's going on with this Sean Watson?
I shouldn't bring that up. Bad time to bring that up.
He taught the jokes like that.
Wasn't a joke. I felt like I was at my massage therapist.
There you go. It was soothing music.
I go once a month, Jack, for a much different reason than Deshaun was going every other day.
Or Bob Kraft.
Or Bob Kraft. Yes, in fairness, Bob Kraft, yes.
So never a dull moment when it comes here. So as we bring Keith in, I was doing a show with Keith this morning, and I mentioned that I was going to just bring this right on up. There are things swirling around right now that the Mets are going to make a very strong play for Aaron Judge. And I got Keith's opinion on this. I wanted to hear what you had to think about that, Jack, for just a moment.
Well, I had heard that Steve Cohen had an excellent relationship with Hal Steinbrenner and wasn't going to make the bid on Aaron Judge. But you have to understand, people want headlines. So they're going to you put something out like that, it could be totally bogus, totally made up, but people are going to take the bait. But with that said, who knows whether or not it's true or not? I mean, Judge is going to want to stay with the Yankees, all factors equal. I'm sure he would take a little less to stay with the Yankees, but any team that's going to bid on him is going to bid substantially more than the Yankees. I mean, I don't give the Yankees a 50-50 chance of Judge staying, provided he stays healthy and he continues on this pace the rest of the year. He's been linked to the Giants, his hometown. But if he did sign with the Mets hypothetically, he's in the New York market. He continues to be a New York icon. And if the Mets win a World Series at some point with Judge there being a star, he's kind of crossed over. His legacy is going to be as a New York icon, maybe not as a Yankee icon, but he won't be the next Robinson Cano, who lost his legacy by going to Seattle. And I'm going to tell you something. If that's true, if Steve Cohen really has his eye on him and he wants Aaron Judge, forget what Yogi said about it not being over till it's over. It's all over for the Yankees, because this is a guy, Steve Cohen, who paid over $43 million a year for Scherzer. Okay, just think of that. Steve Cohen, with his $14 billion, he'll go up to $45 million a year, in maybe 10 years if he has to. I mean, that's as crazy as it sounds. He'll blow the Yankees out of the water, and the Yankees won't even try to keep up because he'll be so far ahead of him. If Steve Cohen truly wants to get it done in the worst way, he's a New York Met.
Yeah. I agree. The worst thing could happen is the Mets even get involved, whether they sign him or not, because the price goes way up, as Jack said. That's the biggest issue there. The price goes up. I say it's going to be $40 million anyway. That's what I think. I think it's $40 million today without the Mets involved. And the worst nightmare for the Yankees would be Aaron Judge moving across town and finishing his career as a Met and going to the Hall of Fame and maybe wearing a Met cap. Wouldn't that be awful? Jesus. The worst thing I can think of is as a Yankee fan, and the Yankees have nobody to blame but themselves. They could have got this done in the spring, and they just wouldn't budge off of their number.
No, well, I'm not mad at the Yankees for this spring, even though I thought their offer wasn't treating Aaron Judge like he was a free agent. They should have done it this spring. I agree with you, Keith. I think teams like the Yankees, their biggest mistake is letting a guy get to within 2 years of free agency. Once it's at that point, it's like the player and his agent could smell the finish line. They're going to want to get to free agency. So what I think you have to do is what a team like the San Diego Padres did with Fernando Tatis. They signed the guy to a 14-year deal at the age of 21.
Yeah.
Okay, because they envisioned a mega star in him, and they were ahead of the curve, and they're paying him between $24 and $25 million a year, which is great money. But if Tatis is truly going to be a superstar, he's going to command $35 million a year, maybe more from somewhere else. So you're taking a chance on projecting a guy's talent, but you do that with the rare player. But the Yankees were thinking, well, Judge has been injured, he's been this, he's been that. You have to project, is he going to be a career Yankee or not? And they projected wrongly.
Absolutely wrongly, and because it's not, as we've talked about a lot on the show, it's not just what he brings to the field. It's what he brings to the clubhouse. It's what he brings to the marketing, the jersey sales, the goodwill in the community. You know, that whole thing with the ball in Toronto this year. I mean, that's a perfect example of why you can't lose an Aaron Judge. And I don't know if I agree necessarily that he'd take less money to stay in New York. I think it might take more money to stay in New York.
I got a question to ask you, Keith. Let's say Aaron Judge moves on. Who is the face of the Yankees? Do they have a guy? Is it Garrett Cole, for argument's sake? But that's a pitcher. No. It's not quite the same.
Yeah, no. I don't think
the Yankees anymore.
I think they're left without a face of the team for the short term because it'll become one of the kids, you know, Velope or Peraza, if they turn out to be players like Judge, anywhere near Judge's caliber, and have that type of cachet that they bring to New York. But that's a few years away where they can be the face of the franchise. This will be a team without a face for the first time in a long, long time, because we went from Jeter to Judge pretty quickly. And, you know, Jeter was the face of his franchise.
We have Mattingly before that.
Mattingly before that.
83. And then you go shortly before that, Reggie Munson, and shortly before that, Mickey Mantle a few years, before Munson and to DiMaggio. And then we're going back. They always had a face. They always said the dots were connecting. So that means the Yankees would probably want to make a major move if Judge left. First chance they get, they pay Judge the money they should have paid Judge to begin with. Pags, would the Yankees love to have a do-over on Bryce Harper now?
Oh, I'm sure they would.
I'm sure. Yeah, that especially. I don't know that Bryce was interested in going to New York. I don't look at him as a New York guy.
Doesn't feel like a good fit. No.
Yeah. Flores, short right field fence. Come on.
No, I don't mean his game. I mean just the personality. I just doesn't feel like a fit. I don't know why.
You're in Philadelphia, the Boo Bird city of the world. If you go to Philadelphia, you're ready to go to New York.
No, Pags told me they're the best fans in the world.
Yeah, they are the best fans in the world, and we don't boo people who actually bring it to the field every day. So, and Bryce Harper is one of those guys. So let me ask this question then: would it be worse for the Yankees if Judge went to the Mets or to the Red Sox?
Oh, that was tough. I would say the Mets, believe it or not, because we're staying in New York, they still get to capitalize on the marketing, and his star is as big. In Boston, I mean, obviously you'd have to play against them 18 times a year, which isn't good, but I don't think it would carry the same impact. I would feel as sick to my stomach probably either way. But I think from a total, if you look at the total picture, it'd be worse if he went to the Mets. From playing on the field standpoint, it might be worse if he went to the Red Sox.
I don't know do I agree with you, Keith, even though you might be correct here, because keep this in mind. If he goes to the Mets, he's still staying in New York. So he's showing a loyalty kind of towards the city, maybe not towards the team, the Yankees. but he's staying in New York. And the city would love him and the whole bit. And they're not Yankee fans per se, but the city, it'd be a good thing. He goes to Boston. Boston's traditionally been a hated rival. Okay, they're more of a rival. He'd be playing the Yankees more than he would the Mets. He would be
18 times versus 3, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I can imagine. I can imagine that would be a lot of fun to watch those games, though. And would they boo him? Would they boo him? Would they call him a traitor if he? If they came out with a ridiculous contract, you talked 45. I'm saying if you go $55 million a year, and it doesn't matter how many years at that point. If you're going to go crazy, you might as well go crazy to get him, and you get him. Do you call him a traitor? Do the New York fans call him a traitor because he goes off to wherever he gets the money from?
I wouldn't. No,
I'll tell you.
Because he didn't. Because the Yankees, in my mind, have not dealt with him in good faith. They've dealt with him the same way they deal with every one of their stars that are homegrown. They don't love them. I laugh when I read on social media, if George were alive, this wouldn't be happening. He'd already be signed. No. And people are so full of crap because George let a lot of his own players walk away because he loved the shiny little thing over here better. There's all kinds of examples. He was going to let Bernie Williams walk away to the Red Sox almost.
He didn't.
No, Bernie Williams stayed with the Yankees eventually, but he nearly walked away to the Red Sox. The Yankees came at the last second before he went. They told Derek Jeter, again, an icon, to go out and find himself a better deal.
Steinbrenner. That was Hal Steinbrenner, Brian Cashman, and Randy Levine.
It's still the Yankee organization, and this is all runs down and trickles down from George Steinbrenner and his influence. So you tell an icon like Derek Jeter, go find a better deal.
George wasn't alive during the Jeter thing.
I think he was. No, maybe not. It might have been around the time he passed, actually. You might be right, Jack. But still, the influence is still there on the organization. It was.
But George wouldn't have let it get to that point with Jeter. He would have personally swooped in, signed Jeter. He would have created some noise for the tabloids, but he would have made it right. Jeter wouldn't have had the same level of resentment. He wouldn't have wanted Jeter to feel as diminished as Jeter was made to feel. I mean, I never forgave the Yankees, but I'm not the biggest Jeter fan. Don't get me wrong. I think he could be a bit of a jerk at times himself, okay? But the way they treated Jeter during that negotiation, it was the Yankee organization.
Classless.
Classless completely. I mean, how it was. If I were Jeter, I don't know how he feels about the Yankee organization now, but I would have a hard time forgiving them over how they handle that whole thing. Yep. But you're speaking of Judge. Okay, normally I do the show with Mac, who we're all tremendously fond of. Mac's a little idealistic because Judge said, I want to remain a Yankee. So Mac says, well, this is his chance to prove it. You want to remain a Yankee, you take their offer. If you want to play with him, and Doc, who I do the Saturday show with, agrees, if you want to be a Yankee, you're given a nice, handsome offer, $213 million. That's a fair offer. And I'm exasperated because I'm saying it's not what you consider fair. It's what he can get elsewhere. And he's not going to be idealistic for an extra $87 million. I love the Yankees so much. Because if he stops hitting, the Yankees might get rid of him at some point, and he's going to think, I could have gotten an extra $87 million.
Look, they could give him $400 or $500 million. This is a $7 billion organization. They could give him, $400 or $500 million in his total contract, and they're going to recoup their money, their return on their investment in 2 years.
I wouldn't go that far to go
when you think about the potential loss in TV advertising revenues, if the team takes a downward trend, if you take into effect merchandising and everything, they will recoup their money or lose it.
You know how they'll recoup their money? They'll make a major signing in a year or two. They'll either trade for a guy like a Juan Soto from the Nationals and give him a mega contract, the type they should have given Judge, or Ohtani. I think
exactly my point.
A year or two becomes a free agent, if I'm not mistaken, and the Yankees would give Ohtani the moon. Okay, exactly. And that would be your mega star to replace Judge.
You just made my point for me, though, perfectly. There's this shiny thing over here on the West Coast. There's this shiny thing over here in the East Coast. We don't care about our shiny little thing we have in our backyard. Let's go after one of those two guys.
I can't argue with
mentality
that.
for decades.
Yeah, and I think of the Players Association also jumping in on that they would not allow Aaron Judge to, get offered a contract that would be so much more than what the Yankees offer, and then, be okay with him signing with the Yankees. Players Association.
He wouldn't with the Yankees if it's so much more.
That's what I'm getting at. Like you're talking about how Doc was saying how they should take take whatever he offers, and you're talking about $200 million. That's a lot of money, but
that's
it's a lot of money. $400 million
off the 8 years.
There's precedent too for what you're saying, Pags, because when A-Rod got traded first, before he came to the Yankees, remember, he got traded to the Red Sox and he was going to take a pay cut. And the Players Association said, no, you're not. And that trade blew up because of it. So there's precedent for that type of thing.
Right. And literally that's how it came about with Mike Trout. The moment that Harper signed with here and he says, hey, in a couple of years, we're looking at hopefully be able to get Mike Trout. That's why I took the type of deal that I did, and of course that they looked at that as like collusion a little bit, where they're like, I don't know that that's really a good thing to do. The Angels had no choice. They had to give him, $450 million contract to make sure that he wasn't going to go anywhere.
You know what Judge might do? If someone offers Judge, let's say $320 million, I'm throwing a number, and I'm in the ballpark, even though I might even exceed that. And the Yankees offer $280. It's a $40 million difference, but the Yankees throw in incentives, and they also allow him to opt out every couple of years. They might be able to pull this off, the Yankees. I'm not counting them out, even though I think Judge is going to go elsewhere, because it just takes one team and the name Steve Cohen to blow everything out of the water. Give an offer that's so far out of the Yankees' reach or where they want to go that they just basically throw the towel in and say, good luck, Aaron. Thanks for all you've done. And adios.
He's definitely a wild card. Steve Cohen's definitely a wild card in this whole thing because, again, I don't care what his relationship is with the Steinbrenners. He wants to win in New York. He wants to be George Steinbrenner, and I don't think any relationship is going to keep him from chasing a Yankee player if that's what he wants.
Well, let me ask you guys this: if the Yankees weren't in the position they were, let's say they had fulfilled Jack Hirsch's prophecy, they were under 500, trending towards that year, a lousy year. Would they keep Judge till the end of the year? Would they risk antagonizing him, or would they have traded him at this point for prospects if it looked like they weren't going to be a playoff team? Obviously, you can't trade Judge now. That would be crazy. No. You got to ride him out for the year.
There's a possibility they would have made that trade because, again, if he's going to free agency anyway, you still have a chance to re-sign him as a free agent. It happens a lot. It happened with Chapman twice. Where you let the guy go and bring him back. I mean, so I don't think the Yankees would necessarily not make that move. Again, it's hypothetical because it's not going to happen unless the Yankees lose about 50 games in a row here, Jack.
Let me ask Keith something, Pax. Last night's game that the Yankees beat the Red Sox 6-5. Chapman didn't close. Clay Holmes closed.
Holmes is closer.
That's going to be, but has Holmes been named the designated closer? Because I haven't heard Boone name anyone.
No.
Just as we know, Chapman is officially the closer until we're told otherwise. But last night was revealing.
No, it was very revealing, and also the things leading up to that. Boone's probably, not going to say that because he doesn't want to lose Chapman. But if you read between the lines of things that Boone says, and King, by the way, has moved into that back end of that bullpen in the high leverage situations as well. And Chapman saying when he came back, I thought it was very revealing when he said, I'll do any role they want me to do. I just want to be part of this team. I thought that was very revealing as well, whether it was him or somebody, prompting him to make those comments. I think that was very revealing. And I think it's obvious that Clay Holmes is the closer on his team right now.
Max, the Phillies could use some bullpen help. Chapman might be available for the right package of prospects. What do you think?
And if you like ninth inning home runs, he's your guy. I'll tell you right now.
Look what he did for the Cubs. I mean, he was a key part of them winning the World Series. The Yankees down that road before.
That was 7 years ago.
So what would we give up to the Yankees right now? The only spot that I think of that that would be maybe worth trading would be Real Muto, and my and they're getting a lot of production out of that.
They don't want to take Real Muto's contract. He has a big contract with the Yankees, and
actually his contract is like he went out there to take a look at free agency, and his value is not as high as people thought it was. So I mean, he wound up getting less than what he was expecting to. So I mean, realistically, now that he's 2 years into that contract, it's not as big a contract as you would think. I mean, when you compare it to Judge, I mean, I think he's making similar money. Maybe
a reunion with Didi Gregorius to give the Yankees a little more infield depth.
I don't think they're going to trade for Gregorius. Is not having a great year. Has he had a home run yet this year, by the way?
No, but he missed it by about 2 feet yesterday.
His range is diminished. He's not the player he was when he left. And I love Didi, but I don't see that happening. The Yankees need a solid outfielder defensively and with the bat. That's what they need. The one thing they need right now.
Max told me, and I think this was an error, that Gaudy's at AAA. I didn't hear that.
No, he's not.
Why was he telling me that, Mac? Gaudy's at AAA. I never heard of that.
I'm not sure where he got that from, but he's not at AAA. No,
Gaudy could have opted back in for $2.3 million, and Gaudy thought he could get more money from the Yankees. The Yankees wanted him back, so he wanted, $4 or $5 million or whatever, and he didn't opt back in, and it kind of backfired on Gaudy. And then Gaudy was offered like $6 million a year to play for Toronto. And Gaudy, elected to wait, thinking the Yankees would perhaps ask him to come back. And it's not a nice ending. I'm not really being too critical of the Yankee organization, but they should be aware of Gaudy's loyalty too. And maybe if Gaudy's keeping in shape, you have him come back as a September call-up.
I love Gardy, but his time has passed. Let's not go down that road. Bring him back as a coach at some point, but Gardy's done as a player. He didn't help this team that much the last couple of years. I mean, he did
help. He did help, Keith, with injuries and all filling in. He did help.
Yeah, because he was a body and you had to have somebody in the lineup. Yes, in that sense. But he had some brutal stretches the last 2 years where he hurt the team a lot.
He helped the team. He made some nice defensive plays in the outfield.
So did Joey Gallo with his 165 batting average.
So. Well, Gaudy would have been better there than Gallo this season. We could agree on that, right?
I can't argue that. Yes, Gardy could hit 165 with he's up to 10 home runs now. But Joey Gallo, really? Joey Gallo doesn't have 20 RBIs yet. Oh my God!
Look, he walked twice yesterday. Went 0 for 2, walked twice, which was nice. He got on base a couple of times.
Yeah, that was awesome.
The point is, with Joey Gallo, I don't see the upside, him getting better. He might have a spurt where he hits a number of home runs, those little spurts, make a couple of good defensive plays here and there. But on balance, I just don't see it getting better. I don't see him being a major league, quality on balance.
Is it the bright lights of New York that's causing that from him?
Yes, I think it's a really bad fit for Gallo. I just think his personality is too laid back, and the team loves him. Boone loves him. His teammates love him, and if he stays, it's because they don't want to break up the team chemistry, and he fits that team chemistry very well. But on the field, my gosh, Kiner Falefa's got a higher slugging percentage than Joey Gallo. Are you kidding me? What are we paying for here?
Well, but that's Yankees though. Sometimes they're hit, sometimes they miss, whiff something bad. I mean, how many years is it on his contract?
He may be a free agent after this year, actually. No, wait a minute. No, I think he's got one more year.
Okay, so that's not so terrible.
38 homers last year. So last year, people put him down. He hit a lot of home runs. He walked over 100 times last year. And he was a Gold Glove Award winner. So I was all for him coming back. I'm not, but
Just not a fan.
Watching him every game, his bat is so like anemic. I mean, and why are pitchers walking him? Just get the darn ball over the plate.
Would.
Chances are he's not going to hit it.
He's just a bad fit for the city. I don't know. I bet Joey Gallo would probably be a great player in Kansas City. Right?
You want to know something, Keith? The Boo Birds have been easy on him because the Yankees have been winning.
Oh,
They
yeah.
haven't been that bad on him because I think the Boo Birds know that they're going to take off the rest of the team. As long as they're winning, they don't want to hear one of their players booed. The other players won't understand that. If the Yankees are losing their share close games and the fans boo Gallo for not coming through, the other players at least understand it, even though they might not like it.
Yeah, look, this isn't going to be a big deal in a regular season, probably for the rest of the year. They got a 14-game lead. Judge and Stanton and Rizzo, to a certain extent, are carrying this offense. They've gotten offense out of the catcher spot that they didn't expect from Trevino. Where it's going to matter is where it all matters come the playoff when runs are much more precious and harder to get. And the Yankees have shown against top-flight pitching, they still have trouble scoring runs when they don't hit home runs. And Joey Gallo and Aaron Hicks, their deficiencies are going to show up then and be glaring if they're still a key part of this lineup come playoff time. And that's when the Boo Birds will come out.
What's happened to Aaron Hicks defensively? Because if the Yankees had their choice, if he was the Aaron Hicks of old, they wouldn't want Judge to play center field. They'd want him in right field and Hicks in center. Are they playing Judge in center field kind of by default?
Yeah, they think their best defensive outfield is Hicks in left and Judge in center and you know what? I know Mac, this is another thing, Mac. Mac thinks that's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. I mean, you're covering probably twice the territory you have to. I don't doubt that the calf injuries in both legs that he's dealing with right now could be tied to the fact that he's played so much center field. And this is such a big guy. You know, that's a lot to carry around out there, you know, covering all that ground in center field. And it's not small in Yankee Stadium either. So is it a huge deal? No, but in the long run, it's not ideal. He'd be better off in right field and a better center fielder. That's why I want to see them bring in a center fielder here.
Yeah, but what would they be willing to give up? I mean, when you're 60-23, you get very nervous about how you would change the chemistry because everything is rolling so well. So bringing somebody in to help this team, even in a defensive way, it could adjust some of that. You know, and are they willing to do that? Are you willing to give up a piece that, like even a Chapman, who has been a Yankee for so long, to get a center fielder to be able to cover some of that? Like, for instance, you talk about that, like Odubel Herrera, you know, and I'm talking about the Phillies here, although he's not very well liked in Philadelphia, is actually having a pretty decent season, both with the bat and defensively. And he's got some speed on the base paths. You know, he does make the gaffe every once in a while, but defensively, he's been a lot more sound this year. And he's, like I said, he's got the speed to be able to cover that large spot of ground. Would you be willing to take on somebody like that to be able to be a defensive backup, even for the later innings?
I think that's
something that you'd be up to doing.
I think that's the kind of trade the Yankees are probably going to make. I don't think they're going to make some big splash for a big name. I really don't see it happening. I think when we talked about a trade with the Phillies, I actually looked, and the only guy I could see helping this team would be Herrera, possibly. The guy that comes up a lot in conversations is Victor Robles from Washington. He'll probably get traded, and you'll probably get him for a couple of marginal prospects. You're not going to have to trade a lot to get him. That's the type of guy I think the Yankees will try to bring in to help solidify that outfield spot. And again, you hit it right on the head, Pegs, when you said the chemistry's a delicate thing. Nobody knows why it works or why it doesn't work, right? Well, I guess sometimes there's obvious reasons it doesn't work, but just dumping Joey Gallo, like I would be in favor of on the surface, does run the risk of hurting the team chemistry. Because like I said, outside of his 165 batting average and the horrible numbers we're looking at, he's well-liked in the clubhouse. He's well-liked by the manager, who backs him to a fault. And you do risk upsetting that delicate balance of chemistry. And Aaron Hicks, I don't know that it would be as big a deal if they moved him out of town. But
well, I got a deal for you. I mean, what the Yankees somehow be able to get Brian Buxton, the center fielder of the Twins. The Twins signed him to a long-term deal. Buxton hasn't been having a good year, but we know he still has potential. He's excellent defensively, and the Twins are in a race, to win their division in first place. Do they need a closer bad enough? Could you give him Chapman? Hicks used to be a Twin. You pay half of Hicks's $10 million salary for the next few years, to make it happen. And do you maybe give him one of your backup catchers or something? I don't know. I'm not talking in terms of just dumping your second, third tier players for someone who's really good. The question is, if the Twins are a little disappointed in Buxton and they're enamored with Chapman and thinking, wow, he still has the same velocity, we can straighten him out, you kind of wonder.
Well, the Twins are contending, so that's one stumbling block there. Buxton has an injury issue, which is another stumbling block. But with all that said, if they were willing to take Hicks and Chapman, I'd make that trade in a heartbeat and bring Buxton in here because he's got that type of potential and could really help this Yankee lineup because his talent is really, really, really off the charts when he can get on the field. And I think he's played more this year than he's played in the past. And yes, he struggled a little bit at times, but maybe he just needs a change of scenery. New York isn't always the easiest place to get that change of scenery, but I would take that gamble. If you want just Hicks, and he's not going to play worse than Aaron Hicks. He's not.
Guys, who the Yankees could have gotten for nothing? Lorenzo Cain was basically released by the Brewers, and he's not sure whether he's going to play again. But, I think he's 36 or so. Yeah. And maybe you take a flyer on a guy like that, and he does what Matt Carpenter,
I was surprised. I was surprised he didn't hook up somewhere, and he still may, for the stretch run. I don't know how much he's got left. He's been declining for quite a while, but he was a really good player, a good defensive player, put the bat on the ball, and was the kind of guy he would have been in his heyday, the perfect guy for this Yankee lineup because he does some things that some other guys don't, as far as putting the ball in play and hitting in certain situations. So, but I don't know that they could take a flyer on him if they have some injury issues or something, but probably not going to happen.
Yeah. Gotcha. All right. So anything happening with the Patriots? I don't want to switch off of the Yankees. I'm tired of talking about the Yankees. And Finn also said, let's talk football.
I saw you nodding off there, Pegs.
Yeah, I know. I'm so done with the Yankees.
Patriot land, I guess the biggest news is obviously Robert Kraft being nominated for the Hall of Fame. Again, if you talk about just his contributions to the league, I think he's a no-brainer. Hopefully, some people will take into account some of his off the field issues or out of the football realm issues and massage parlors and whatnot. But
he wasn't found guilty. Come on.
I'm just saying some people will. I won't. Right. Because if you're going to take people's, everybody with personal picadillos out of the Hall of Fames, you're going to empty out at least half of all of them. Basketball, baseball, they'll all be half empty if you took all the bad people out of them. I don't think Bob Kraft is a bad person. Bob Kraft got caught in a bad situation, and I think that's the end of that. Bob Kraft will be in the Hall of Fame. It's a no-brainer. Whether it's this year or another year, he'll be in. As far as other news, I mean, there hasn't been a lot of news because the silence about the offense and who will be calling the plays and what the scheme will be is deafening, which is not surprising because Belichick's not going to let this out of the bag until he has to. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Matt Patricia will be calling the plays on the offense and not Joe Judge. That's just my opinion. But I do think they're going to change the scheme up a little bit and run more of that Shanahan offense with the zone blocking and stuff that gives the running game more options as far as lanes, and also opens up that play action passing. And they've been running that in spring. They ran that offense a lot in the spring. So it's going to be interesting to see. And that could be, for all I know, that could be a decoy. He wants everybody to think he's going to switch up his offense, and he doesn't. So
Keith, I can't help but just backtrack a second, and then we'll move on quickly.
Sure.
Bob Kraft isn't in the Hall of Fame, and how can you not vote for him? Isn't Jerry Jones in the Hall of Fame? And he is in the Hall of Fame, Jerry Jones, and you compare the two owners. Robert Kraft's teams have been much more successful than Jerry Jones's. Jerry Jones has 3 Super Bowls to his credit. Robert Kraft has 6. They've gone to 10, I believe, with Robert Kraft as the owner, and they've won 6. So his record is better than Jerry Jones's, clearly.
I don't disagree.
You know, his Patriot teams compared to the Cowboys on balance during the time they've owned the team. So how could you not vote for him? I just had to have my say in support of Robert.
Because there's always going to be somebody out there who's going to bring up one stupid incident. That's all. That's why. And by the way, it isn't just his Super Bowl victories. He's also been an influential member of the NFL in general, the executive committees, and serving on all these different committees that and help build the NFL into this huge conglomerate that it is today. He's been a big part of that. And Jerry Jones has, in fairness, too, but he just hasn't had the success on the field, you know. So no, you have to vote for Bob Kraft. It's a no-brainer.
So, well, I kind of believe the same thing, that even though I'm not a Patriots fan, it's, you know, he's done enough for the NFL. And when you've won 6 Super Bowls, you gotta, you know, I think that it starts with the ownership and then works its way down. So you had to bring the right people in to be able to do that. I mean, yeah, the Patriots were really non-existent before he got there. I know that they had a couple of Super Bowl runs and such like that, but they were never really even a viable franchise until Kraft got there. So
they were leaving town, Jamie. They were leaving town before he got there. Bob Kraft, if that Bob Kraft hadn't come in and bought this team, they were moving to St. Louis. Maybe they're going to move to Hartford, but they weren't staying in Foxborough. They were on their way out of town. And the way he acquired this team was just brilliant, by the way, when you think about it was done differently than most other people. Bob Kraft bought up everything around the stadium. Then he bought the stadium, and that's how he leveraged himself into the ownership of the team, was the leases that he held on everything the Patriots needed. That's how he got it from Bob Orkwine.
So he just raised the rent, and you guys want to leave? Well, I'll buy you out.
Yeah. Well, they had a lease, and they were going to move to St. Louis. Like I said, Orkwine wanted to move the team to St. Louis, and almost had a deal. And Bob Kraft said, "Wait a minute, you owe me all this money for the stadium lease, for the parking lots, for all this stuff." And by the way, it looks today it's totally different. Back then, when you drove up Route 1 to the stadium, it was like driving down, a rural highway, and all of a sudden there's a football stadium, and the parking lots were all dirt and stone and grass, and now it's like a little city over there. But it's talk about a difference. I'm shocked whenever I go to a game now compared to when we had season tickets for 10 years from 80 to 90. It's a totally different world out there now.
So I was listening to ESPN radio the other day, and they were talking about the AL East, or the AFC East, and they were talking how the Jets, if their quarterback play is better than Tua, that they could possibly be the number 2 team in that division. And that would be jumping over both the Patriots and the Dolphins. That they think that the Patriots are on a down year, that they have not filled up any of the holes that they had on defense, and that playoff game is really indicative of what their season's going to look like this year, and that Tua is so much under the gun that he will falter because of it, which could possibly open the door for the Jets to be the number 2 team in that division.
I think the Jets are primed to improve. I think the quarterback, a lot of Jet fans are panicking, and as they do, I think Zach Wilson will be fine once he played much better in the second half than he did the first half when they put him in a better position to succeed. And I think the Jets will be improved. Do I think they're going to be the number 2 team in that division? I do not. I think the Patriots and the Dolphins, as much as I don't have a lot of faith in the Dolphins, the same people ripping the Patriots to me are propping the Dolphins up way too much when Tua is, to me, a big question mark. But I don't see the Jets making that kind of leap. I can see them winning, 6 or 7 games. Maybe they get to 8 and 9. I don't know, but I think they'll win some games. They'll be much more competitive. I don't see them making that jump to second place, though.
No, they didn't block too well for Zach Wilson last year. And we talk about all the great draft picks the Jets had, the first 4. But they didn't really address the offensive line. And they were great picks. I'm not being critical of it. Believe me, I'm very supportive of the guys that they picked. But the question is, if you give Zach Wilson pass protection, if he's under the same duress as before, why do we assume a player's going to improve just because he has a year under his belt and he's starting the next year? All he's had is the off season. I mean, he might pick up from where he left off, having a lot of difficulties. I mean, it's so unpredictable. But as far as expectations go, what Keith was saying is correct. If the Jets go 8 and 9 this year, they went 4 and 13 last year, the fan base is going to be satisfied with 8 and 9. They're going to consider that that's really good progress. We're happy. If the Dolphins, who were 9 and 8 last year, go 9 and 8 again, the Dolphin fan base isn't going to be happy. They didn't take a step forward. Buffalo has got to get to the Super Bowl. Anything short of that, their fan base isn't going to be happy. At the very least, they have to be in the show. And as far as New England goes, wow, I just don't know what to make out of them, what their fan base expects, what would make them happy. 10 and 7 last year, not bad, at all. But the way they lost that playoff game, it was so ugly the way they lost that playoff game.
Listen, I don't expect to challenge the Bills for first place. I really don't. I think this team can be 10 and 7, maybe even 11 and 6, depending how things break. I got to go through the schedule to really get it. It all depends. And Pegs mentioned it. The improvement on defense has got to come from someplace, and they really haven't addressed it greatly. They did bring in some pieces, not major pieces. And maybe it comes down to play calling too. I don't know. Maybe Steve Belichick had too much power in the play calling, and if I were the team, I would name Gerard Mayo the defensive coordinator and just let him run the show because I think he's that good. But if the players aren't there, and look at the secondary's getting old, the front 7 looked terrible the last 3 or 4 games of the season, plus that playoff game. I think. So it hinges on Mac Jones's improvement and that defense. You can't give up, 250 yards rushing and think you're going to win any games. So, that's
not going to happen.
Yeah, I saw the comment you put up from Finn there earlier. Just to address that real quick about Hill and what he said about Mahomes and Tua. What's he going to say? He's going to go there and sign for all that money and then say, oh, Mahomes is a much better quarterback than Tua, and Tua's no good. He's not going to say that. He's going to build up his new guy. So I take that with a grain of salt. Nobody outside of Tyreek Hill thinks that Tua is a more accurate quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. I don't think.
No, I don't think so either. I think that was a lot of fodder. And of course, it got a lot more play because he said it in the first place. Maybe he should have just kept his mouth shut, but sometimes egos and players don't quite coincide with all that stuff. So
I don't think it necessarily means he had a beef with Mahomes either. I think he's just trying to prop up his new quarterback.
I think headlines taken out of context, it happens all the time. I mean, even in my boxing writing, 6 weeks before Evander Holyfield fought Mike Tyson in a rematch, I bumped into Holyfield at an airport in Las Vegas. A strange place to get an interview. I do it. It's on the front page of my publication, Boxing News. And I asked Holyfield a simple question. You think Mike Tyson is going to be more ready than he was for the first fight? Simple question. And Holyfield answered very casually, saying, well, he better be ready, ready because he knows what he did the first time wasn't enough. He said it very casually. The headline says, Tyson had better be ready, as if Holyfield is throwing down the gauntlet. These headlines, I think, too much are made out of it with Tyreek Hill, what he said. I don't think he said that Tua is better than Mahomes. That would be ludicrous for him to say that, and he wouldn't say that. He probably said something along the lines that Tua, has the potential to even be better than Holmes. Maybe he said that potential, and then he may have added, but Mahomes is one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. But I think Tua can be that too. But then the writer leaves certain parts out in the headline.
That's not quite how that story went, though. I mean, he actually did say it, and he had to go up and retract it, and then retract the retractment, and it was just, it was a little bit of a play. You know what I mean? It was definitely fodder for the summer, for football. But I look at that as all talk. Again, you want to be able to show it on the field, and Tua has got some. He's got really some explaining to do on the field, or else he's not going to be there in Miami anymore. I mean,
he's got two weapons, not only Hill, Jalen Waddle. Talk about having two big-time weapons there. So I wonder if there's going to be anything going down between Hill and Waddle, who should be the number one guy. Because Tyreek Hill, even though he's going to say what a great team player he plans to be, if Waddle is getting most of the big throws coming his way and not Hill, and Waddle is perceived as all of a sudden the number one receiver on the Dolphins, I don't think that's going to sit that well with Tyreek Hill. I think Waddle will be able to handle it a little better being a second-year player than Hill, an established star, would.
Look, at a good quarterback will know how to keep them both happy. And like a Patrick Mahomes would, I don't know that Tua will be able to do that. So your point may be accurate, Jack, because of who the quarterback is. Look at the Dolphins made their choice. They chose between their head coach and their quarterback, and they chose the quarterback. And if they're wrong, then they set this franchise back, another 5 years.
Well, it may not be that long, because if they stink out loud, then they can choose a quarterback in this draft, because this is a quarterback-rich draft.
Yeah, but they won't be that. They won't be bad enough probably to get one of those guys. Maybe, I don't know.
Case, but Pags is avoiding the issue that the Eagles have a plan B for quarterback. Let's say Jalen Hurts, for whatever reason, you don't want him to gets injured. Or let's say the worst case scenario, worst case scenario is an injury, but a bad scenario would be if he just isn't performing well and it becomes obvious to the Eagles, we can't move forward with this guy as our future for the franchise. The Eagles, as strange as it seems, are built to win right now. Okay, what does the Eagles do? I mean, is Minshew still with you? Is there one of the other quarterbacks, out there that they can get at this point now, who could be ready-made to step in?
Well, I think Minshew would have to be the answer, and if for an injury, if he was to get hurt, Hurts was to get hurt like that, it would obviously be a big difference. I have Hurts. I think he is worth 3 wins. And so if you've got 11 or 12, well, that brings you down to 8 or 9. And I don't know that Gardner Minshew has got wins in him like that. So that's where I feel that if it does not live up to his expectations and does not improve from his play last year, or he does get hurt, because getting hurt is like the worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you're not sure how his play was, because if he played well for the first 4 games and then gets a season-ending injury in week 5, how do you go after a new quarterback? So like say you're 4-0 and he gets hurt now, and then the rest of your season you don't do very well. Does that mean, you stick with him again? That means you still got to wait another year, because I say he's got 10 more games to prove himself. That you need those 10 games. If you only get halfway through those 10 games, then you got to bring him back next year and hope that, they get through that. So it's going to be hard. I think Minshew can win some games with the ease of our schedule. I think that we could still be above 500. I don't believe that 9-8 is going to be a playoff spot. Now, I was proven last year I could be proven wrong again this year coming up, but we'll have to see all the play on the field.
I'm going to tell you, Howie Roseman is a very bold GM, and the Eagles have acquired a lot of draft capital. I wouldn't be shocked, okay? He trades for Jimmy G for one of the first-round draft choices, the lesser of the two, and that the Niners make a deal, and he could justify it. Well, you need 2 quarterbacks because they did draft Jalen Hurts during a time when Carson Wentz was firmly entrenched as the starter. I wouldn't be shocked they pull off that move, cover all their bases, and Jimmy G's an Eagle next year.
Again, there would have to be certain pieces that fall into place on that. That would mean that obviously Hurts is hurt. That's the only way I can see that.
Starter. Jimmy G's the backup on the roster. They move on from Minshew, and Jimmy G's backing up Hurts. And if whatever reason Hurts is struggling, it gets injured, Jimmy G's ready to step in.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. Just I hear you. They're not going to give up a first-round pick for Jimmy G.
I don't think so either.
No way that they would do that.
Assuming Hurts is healthy, I mean, Minshew's enough to fill in where he's not a bad quarterback in spurts and short, small windows. You just don't want him playing 17 games, right?
Correct. That's what I say. So yeah. I again, and if you're forced to have to do that, I think he's good enough to be 500. So if you're 4-0 and he gets hurt in week 5, and he's a 500 quarterback from there on out, well, there you're making the playoffs. If he's not, if he doesn't, do well, then you have to figure out, well, are we going to go after another quarterback? I mean, if he was to come out and lose those first 3 games, then I could see possibly going after Garoppolo, because you want somebody who's got some playoff expertise and somebody who could possibly turn the team around. Because losing on this team is not going to bode well with the fans or the team. So
no, that's one place I have not seen Jimmy G's name mentioned was Philadelphia. But look at Philadelphia's got enough talent on that offense. They need a game manager. Jimmy G could do worse than Jimmy G if they had to have one of those.
Philly fans are more antsy about the Eagles or the Sixers, who are they a little more uptight about the C6 seed?
Philadelphia lives and breathes Eagles first, always. Then the Sixers. The Sixers are a good bit behind. So the Eagles are up here, Sixers are about there. Then
Sixers
the
ahead
Phillies.
of the Phillies. Sixers ahead of the Phillies, or what?
You know what? As the average age of Philadelphia changes, that changes. Philadelphia, the Phillies are an older fan base, where the Sixers are a little bit fresher in that regards. So I think that the Sixers haven't quite overtaken the Phillies yet, and especially right now, the Phillies are doing pretty well. You're starting to see more people at the ballpark than you normally do. I still think that the Phillies hold it a little bit, but it's like I said, as the older crowd is moving on, I think that you're going to see the Sixers start to, take a bit more hold. But they got to get past the second round.
I thought the Philly fans were there because they were there for your batting practice show. I thought that's why they increased.
That always helps. So it's even better when the team actually takes batting practice. I went there to go see Mike Trout take batting practice and Ohtani take batting practice, and neither one of them decided to pick up a bat for 2 days. And then, of course, they got smoked both of those games. So maybe they needed to take up batting practice. But
well, there you go.
Never a dull moment in Philadelphia. So, well. Keith, thank you very much for coming on with us and taking up my spots, because obviously I can't be a guest and the co-host here. So I appreciate that. And I'm glad you were able to get the code properly, where Jack was having a little bit of technical difficulties early this morning. I don't think computers and Jack work well together.
Well, we managed okay. So it's been fun this morning, guys. Thanks for having me, and have a great weekend.
You do the same, Keith. Thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah.
And Jack, our show is over. So
we're still live. Still live.
we are still live.
here.
That's absolutely. I'm just saying that tomorrow Mac will be back to talk with you, and I believe it's also the debate show with the doc. Correct?
Yeah,
So-
we are. We have. Well, Doc, he has a commitment, something to do. That's what happens sometimes in the summer. So he's going to take a sabbatical for 1 week, a well-deserved sabbatical. He has so much going on. So I guess it's just going to be Mac and myself going back and forth, which
Well,
should
I
be
look-
lively.
I'll look forward to watching it. So everybody, thank you very much for tuning in, and look out tomorrow for when Mac is back. Everybody have a great weekend.